Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I am your Fleet Centurion and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best bridge crew this side of the neutral zone. Our very own Tal Shiar operative Eric is here, followed by Sub-Commander Hawk. The Empress of Everything, Erin, graces us with her presence once again. And finally, it's Commander Giraffe, Jolan True.
Hello.
How we doing?
Pretty good. Yeah. Our pre-show was already pretty good, so I feel like we're gonna be. Yeah. This is gonna be fun.
I'm feisty.
It's the post No Trek on TV blues, is what it is. It is. It's like this is the first time.
The pre-San Diego Comic-Con, getting ready for all the Trek stuff.
There's that too.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Don't talk about it. I'm stressing so much.
Yeah. You're in what? You're in stress mode.
I'm stress mode. It's like in a week now. It's in a week.
1 week.
And you know what?
And then I'm gonna go with you, and so I'm like, I have to put a cosplay together because you're putting together an awesome cosplay. So now we're all cosplaying, but mine's not real cosplay.
It's casual. When did I ever go to a convention and not have cosplay? Please.
Never.
Please.
As long as
we're continuing the argument we had before the.
This is the first time in
if you wear a
stop
cosplay
it. Oh my god.
And it's not a uniform, it's just a regular clothes. That's still cosplay.
Mute her. Mute her.
I can't just mute her. If I mute her, I mute everybody.
You're watching the end of Giraffe and Aaron's Friends.
You are
tonight. So yeah, you should feel honored, patrons.
This is what the happy hour later is for. This is the first time in 29 weeks that we haven't reviewed a new episode of Trek.
Oh my god.
Which
feels
is
weird.
Fucking ridiculous. I don't know how I feel. This is gonna be fun though.
Tired. You feel tired.
Yeah. Yeah. Tired is a good answer. It's good. But here we are. This week. We are I can't speak. This is me longing for Strange New Worlds. I need it back. We are deep diving all the similarities between the Strange New Worlds Season 1 finale, A Quality of Mercy, and the classic TOS episode, Balance of Terror. But before that, because of Giraffe and her fucking awesomeness, we had the honor and privilege to sit down over the weekend with the Romulan Commander himself, Matthew MacFadzean, and he was one hell of an interview. That was so much fun.
Such a nice
guy.
Fun.
We should have kept recording after we stopped recording.
I really should have, but I didn't think
you
about
guys,
it.
I tell you, never stop recording. Not until
I have to say that the after interview was as interesting as the during interview. And we can tell you a little bit because I remember what he said, but
there you go.
It's not as fun.
There you go. So in that interview, man, we talked about everything. We talked about just playing that iconic role, right, of being the Romulan commander, the makeup, being on set during crazy strict COVID protocols and restrictions, much more. That interview is actually going to come up in just a couple of minutes, but first, Hawk, good sir, we need to thank our patron collective at the Ready Room level and above.
Yes, we do, and the list is as follows. Thank you to Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Wee, Haven, Takako Nagumo, Kara Kennedy, Mark, Fernanda Nogales, SMK, or Smick. Ian Davies, Laura Linderman, Kowalian Night Spray, Colin Davidson, Jesse Desmond, Alan Davis, Shatterhand 2049, Jesco, MC Frodis, Maggie, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, Raul, Summer Ritchie, supporter of human rights, Maggie Light, Knock Knock interrupting Moot Cow Moo.
Moo? Moo?
I'm here for these names.
Moo with me. Moo with me.
Wayne Ritz, Scone of Arc, Sean, and Jay Howard. Thank you to all.
Yay.
So many new names. I love it.
Yeah.
A lot of new names.
Get out of here.
I'm just like starting to I'm just like, it's more stress for me when it's my turn to read the patron's name.
Don't worry. I think you have, if Aaron keeps coming back, it's, I think 1-2 more till you, because it was Eric, then it was Hawk. And then if Aaron's here in 2 weeks, it'll be Aaron, and then it'll be back to you. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Maybe I'll be sick that day.
NYRL8 says, I would have given up trying to pronounce everything, but when we've been doing it for 2 years, I mean, we got it down.
Yeah.
It's
push
good.
through. You push through, and then you do better the next time.
Giraffe.
Yes.
What's happening? What's happening after this pod?
What's happening? It's the second Thursday of the month, so we have our patrons happy hour. Following the podcast, you should find the Zoom link on the post on Patreon if you're Cerritos level or above. And you can fix the beautiful Romulan-inspired Long Island that Erin concocted for us this month. It's on the Patreon too.
And it's Julian approved as he's drinking it. Rum, vodka, gin, and tequila.
Oh my God.
There's a reason that it's banned, right?
It's
Romulan Ale should
it's
be illegal.
contraband.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, guys. That's what's going on after the show. But right now we have a show to do, and we are going to take a very quick break. And when we come back after a quick warp, we will be joined, pre-recorded, by the Romulan Commander himself, Matthew MacFadzean. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. We're so honored to be joined on our view screen tonight by the Romulan Commander himself, Matthew MacFadzean.
Hello, Jolan True.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on Strange New Pod. I'm so happy.
Total pleasure to be here. Watched the show last week. You guys are amazing. It's really cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I think you're the first real Romulan we have on the show after me.
She just went there immediately.
I've seen your work. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
so
impressive.
We have to ask you, for tradition, are you a Trekkie?
Nice.
All the points.
I lost Spock. I don't know where Spock is. He's around the house. He's somewhere.
I search for Spock.
I think that's grounds for Giraffe to kick you off the interview.
He's somewhere, I promise you. I think my boy's playing with him or something. I don't know.
He's on the Genesis planet.
Yeah.
That's where he is.
I wouldn't say that I identify as a Trekkie. I don't call myself a Trekkie, but I'm certainly a science fiction fan and always have been, since forever. I grew up reading comics, Ray Bradbury stories, Philip K. Dick. It's always been the world I kind of, I love. I grew up playing with all these figures, and so I guess I'm a Trekkie. But you folks all know much more about things than I. So I don't want to get in any war of words with the present company.
It's not about knowing; it's the faith of the heart.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. My wife is a huge TNG fan. The original show was always on TV in our house, but it wasn't until I sat in the theater and Wrath of Khan started and just scared the pants off of me that I was like, okay, my hair's blowing back now. So this is something I should check out a little more. So
movie's classic.
I mean, I know it's a boring answer in some ways, but it's like it's so stereotypical. But that was the film that I was like, this is rad. Some cool stuff.
Do you have a favorite character? Star Trek favorite captain, maybe?
Yeah, I could. Well, I mean, the favorite captain. I'll answer first. I mean, who am I going to say? It's got to be Pike, right? It's got to be Pike. I have to say Pike. I have to say Pike. You know,
in your contract.
Well, you know, just because I think I probably thought about him the most. You know, you know, I read something with Anson Mount, and you know, as they were talking about you know all these things, I'm sure, but you know how Kirk is such a physical, you know, macho kind of character, and then Picard is this great intellectual, and that they decided to go with you know, Pike as a heart leading captain, and I think that's really a stunning choice and a very brave choice, frankly, but I think one that really suits where we're at right now, you know, just as a world. I think we need that kind of warmth, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons the show does so well, frankly, is that kind of warmth that comes off of the show and his lead, you know.
That's actually it is a great answer, and this question wasn't on there. We were gonna do it if we have extra time, but it's the perfect segue, so I have to ask it. We've heard about over the past couple of years, whether it's Discovery, whether it's Strange New Worlds, how challenging like filming has been with COVID restrictions and everything. And speaking of Pike, like you and Anson during Quality of Mercy just played off of each other like so well. But were either of you ever in the same room together during any of that?
That's a good question. So they brought me in for his scenes. So I was there deep in the studio, you know, looking at the bridge as he's speaking to the, you know, the screen. And so I was there to give him his lines. Well, you know, when I went to the studio to do the Romulan stuff, you know, the guy's busy. So I'm playing to a green screen.
Right.
Which is tricky, but I totally get it. That's just how schedules, and that's showbiz, folks. But thank you for saying that. That's very kind. You know, I think what comes in the script is a respect that grows between these two captains. You know, I think that's one of the really fun things, is that they come from different cultures. You know, they have different beliefs, they have different, you know, motivations, but and they want to outwit the other one, but they also have great respect for the other person. And I think that's something that was easy to do with or without somebody reading, you know. Yeah. It's in the script.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That I love all like the little ins and outs when it comes to showbiz, especially when, like I mentioned, like it's just been so crazy with how they shot this series and all the complications with like lockdowns and stuff. So
it was crazy.
It's super interesting. Talk about like these two amazing captains. Like the Romulan Commander is just an absolute iconic role. You know, we all know him from TOS and Mark Leonard and growing up watching Balance of Terror. How much research did you have to do ahead of time, if any, to prepare for such an iconic role? Like, did you watch Balance of Terror alone, or did you watch other Romulan episodes as well?
Yeah, so I did lots. I did lots, and you know, like I remember the moment realizing that I was like, this isn't just a Balance of Terror reference we're doing. We're going pretty hard into the original episode.
Yeah, it's like the episode, and that's pretty much. Yeah,
it's the episode. Yeah. Well, with changes, obviously, right. and things shifted, and you know, but that's intimidating, right? And I figured the best way to sort of, you know, fight that intimidation is to just know as much as I could. So I you know, I learned a lot about Romulan culture. I learned a lot about the history of the parts. I watched all the Romulan performances, you know, from, you know, the enemy, the defector, unification, but up to Nemesis and all those, and, you know, the really hot ones, you know, and just to sort of get a vibe for these people, you know. And then once I felt I had a pretty good understanding of the world of Romulans, for me, it was all Balance of Terror and Mark Leonard, you know. Like I knew that, as I just said, we were going pretty hard into the original episode, but I also wondered how hard we were going to, like, are we going to go completely shot for shot? So I learned his blinking, I learned his speech patterns, I learned everything, so that if I needed to go, you know, full on Mark Leonard, I could be there for it, you know. So you know, I just felt like the more prepared I could be, the better, you know, we could play around with it on the day.
I mean, you definitely hit like all the greats, right? Like all the episodes you mentioned are some of like the best episodes of TNG, as well as obviously Balance of Terror, TOS. I'm gonna steal Giraffe's thunder here, but like the Romulans are my favorite villains. So
no way! Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's really
They're
cool.
not
like,
villains. They're misunderstood.
Okay, I'm sorry. The misunderstood
yes.
spies of Star Trek.
They're great opponents.
Yes,
that's true.
Indeed.
Speaking of Mark Leonard, this came up the other night. We were talking about Paul Wesley and that, and his performance of Kirk and that. And I commented about how he just played the character, but not the actor. Which is such a wise choice. And I think that you probably had to approach that the same way, stepping into Mark Leonard's shoes. And that, were there things that you kept from his performance, and what did you like add to it?
It's tricky, right? And I feel for Wesley. I feel for Celia Gooding. I feel for any of the folks coming in to play these legacy characters, because you've got this thing. Ethan Peck, my God, how do you play? How do you?
I mean, that man is incredible.
Oh, isn't he though? He's just so great.
I mean, they all are, but I mean,
for sure.
We said a few times these past few weeks watching the series, like at times how scary it was, like him like really doing a not an Nimoy impression, but it just felt like he embodied him. Yeah, right? Embodied him at points. It was wild.
Yeah. No, he's beautiful to watch. Absolutely beautiful. I love it. I mean, but like some of those folks, I didn't know at the audition that I was auditioning for a Romulan, or the Romulan Commander, or that Romulan Commander, or that it was Balance of Terror, But I got the job, and so you have to trust what you did for the audition. And if you got the job, you must have done something right. So trust that. Mm-hmm. However, it's this iconic role, man. It's Mark Leonard, it's like Star Trek icon, so you better understand as best you can what he did. And he's such a fantastic actor with this amazing dignity and integrity. And he plays so beautifully with the words, But then at the end of it, it's not 1967, the pace of that episode is very different than television these days, right? Mm-hmm. The style of acting is even different than these days, and it's a different story. That is a captain or a commander rather that is, they're in a dogfight in some ways. They're taking hits on either side, and when he gets to those iconic lines at the very end, the guy's been beaten up pretty bad. He's exhausted. He's near death. All these things. But for the commander I'm playing, he hasn't been hit. He's just resolved to go to his fate, so the words tumble out differently, So I guess in the end, I tried to find moments to let Mark Leonard sing a little bit to honor the callback and pay tribute to this part that I feel very, honored to follow on, but ultimately the character has to be my own, and I think the producers encouraged me to do that.
It came off that way. I mean, obviously you can't be that role, right, without like embodying some of Mark Leonard, but I mean you very much made it your own. It was just a wonderful performance to watch. So bravo.
Thank you so much. That's super fun.
I don't know. We have a Discord where our patrons all chat, and I'm pretty sure during that, when they were watching it together, when you said those lines at the end, everyone freaked out.
Everybody.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
that was hard. We did a few different takes of that, and I gotta say, I was pulled towards being a little more wistful, like Mark Leonard might have been, a little more thoughtful in that. But that's not how the story has gone in this episode. It hasn't been like that. It's been more than just Kirk versus the Romulan Commander. The Praetor's been involved. Kirk is there. There's so many more elements there. The story rolls out differently, so the words come out differently, and it just ain't what Mark Leonard did, because it ain't the same story.
Yeah, we were texting where we're watching the screeners. I was like, he said the line. He said the line.
I got all of it at like a weird time of night, and I was like, she's watching it without me. I'm so mad right now.
I remember saying to my wife when I was like finally reading it and like figuring out what was going on with the script, I'm like, I have to say those words. I'm saying those words. How do I do this? What do we do? It's equally exciting and just terrifying at the same time. Right?
Oh man.
Eric or Hawk, you want to take the other one because I feel I'm doing all the questions.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you're an award-winning actor and playwright, and you're continuing a long line, a tradition with actors with theatrical background in Star Trek. How does it feel to walk in the steps of Sir Patrick Stewart? Did you draw any inspiration from classical characters portraying the Romulan Commander? And if there were any, which ones?
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, Sir Patrick Stewart. I mean, come on, who isn't just?
Who's he?
Like, yeah, I mean, someone we've all admired forever, right? Like, I mean, for me, pre-TNG and all the rest, like I was at school watching him in, these old Shakespeare films, from back in the day. And I think Star Trek appeals to the classical actor in me, like it evokes these situations that are epic, and so there weren't any specific characters that I drew on, but in playing, these two you're in this scene between these two captains who are respecting each other and want each other dead, and all of that. It's Shakespearean. The situation is Shakespearean. So, I just trusted the situation to be classical enough rather than drawing on anybody specific. You know what I mean?
For sure. Like, I assume like with the theater background, like you had prosthetics throughout the sequence. Like it must be harder to work through that because your face doesn't move the same. How was it like wearing the prosthetics?
I loved it.
Acting?
I loved it. I wasn't sure how I would take to it. Well, they took me in for a test to try it out, days before we shot, and it's 3.5 hours, right?
Wow, okay.
Which I've heard worse.
Yeah.
It could have.
Dog Jones.
That was took it right out of my mouth.
There you go.
Well, this was the problem back in the 60s. The Romulans were basically supposed to be the recurring villains throughout the series, but those prosthetics were too expensive and took too much time.
Hence the helmets, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So they get me all dressed, put me through the whole thing, get me all dressed up without the costume, but with just the face and the hair. And then I'm led. They're like, the producers want to see this to make sure that it looks okay. And so they take me into the studio. And it's late at night. It's been a long process, and I'm led with all this little team of people, and suddenly I'm like, this door opens, and there's the bridge, there's the Enterprise.
That's so cool.
and I'm walking into this space, and I'm like, and I said, can I walk onto this? And they're like, yes, sure. And I walk on, and there's the chair, and I'm like, can I sit in the?
No, that's not yours.
and they're like, yeah, and they're like, and they're all looking at me like my jaw's on the ground because I'm on the Enterprise, but they're looking at me with their jaws on the ground because I look amazing, it's this Romulan on the bridge, So I don't know. The prosthetics do so much. They do everything for you. You don't feel trapped. I felt very confident. I was like, oh, there's the guy. That's what it is. You have to do so much less work because the mask kind of does it for you. It's incredibly liberating and empowering. It's huge. It was really cool. I loved it.
So speaking about the classic Romulans, I love the TOS look. I mean, I have literally two cosplay of the Romulan Commander from the Enterprise incident. I was just working on another one right now, and we had Bernadette Croft, the costume designer, on the podcast a few weeks ago. What was the best thing about these new outfit that she created for the Romulans?
Yeah, I gotta say, if Bernadette Croft doesn't win a shelf full of awards for this show, something's wrong. I mean, there's a lot of talent in this show, clearly, you know, the writers, actors, everybody's very good, but this woman's work is just, it's just huge, I think, you know. So there's so much of what, you know, you've got the shoulders, you know, you've got the pointy shoulders, they make you stand in a certain way, and that's all very cool. and we had a number of fittings, you know, for them to build the thing on me and everything. But the one thing I hadn't tried on until the day was I don't know what it's called. I'm gonna call it it was like a shoulder drape. Yeah, like a sash.
Yeah.
And they put that on right before we started shooting, and it's heavy. It was heavy. You know, it had weight to it. It had this metal, you know, to it, and it's stunning. I thought, you know, it's gorgeous, and nobody else is wearing one. Just the commander is wearing one, and it just sort of shifted things for me, because it, you know, it just added a sense of importance and status for me that was really cool. So good luck with that one.
I'm not gonna be a commander. I'm gonna be one of you know,
sub commanders or the
sub commanders that die with you in the end. The two black Romulans. I feel so vindicated. Like, no, not vindicated. What's the word? So validated.
Validated.
I feel so validated. Like cosplaying as a Romulan and you know, a black woman. I'm I was pointing at the screen, like, yes, oh, I'm doing this one. Yeah.
I got to tell you, they were super cool. They were really nice people. And you know, here's a little story. When the ship gets blown up, we were running out of time. We had about 15 minutes left in our time to finish our day, and suddenly the set was just besieged with like special effects people and, you know, explosives people and safety people and all the rest, and at like, you know, 2 minutes till midnight or whatever it was, like when we had to shut the whole thing down, we go action, and we do this explosion, and it literally blew the three of us onto our butts on the ground. You know, it was so powerful that we were like on the floor, and the three of us got up and like we're laughing so hard. Like, it was the end of the day, but like it was terrifying. They were very cool.
I'm hoping that there were some pads back there. You're not just.
Oh yeah. We were well. We were well taken care of. Very safe situation, but still powerful, you know, effects. And
they don't carpet the floors in Star Trek anymore. So, you know,
no children aboard.
Someone had to mention it. And Draft's gonna, you know, tell me they're not villains again, which I guess is true. Romulans are obviously one of the quote unquote big three Trek misunderstood races. Oppositions. Yeah.
Opponent.
Opponent. I
Fair.
like that. That's good.
Fair. They believe different things than the main cast.
Exactly. There are good ones like Laris from Picard. We love her. Yes. So you've gotten to play Romulan now, obviously. Which, again, just bravo, well done.
Oh
amazing!
My God. Thank you.
I think that the running count of how many times everyone in the video right now has seen the episode is probably like into the 20s, maybe 30s. Like
it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's almost embarrassing.
Yeah,
maybe not though.
It's a classic. It's good. You know, and I'm not pointing to my performance. Like the whole thing entirely, I think it's a really strong episode of television.
No, it really is, and I think most of us agree it's the best season finale of any Star Trek.
But I hear people saying that,
and it's going to become a legacy episode, like one of these episodes that, you know, you rewatch with other episode because they're part of the lore now.
Yeah, that's so fun, huh? I love that.
Yeah. But you're in this cool company now where you're a guest actor, and they always have a habit of showing up as other baddies later down the line. So as someone who's now been on Star Trek, any other species that you'd like to tackle playing?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, you can't have that dangled in front of you and not want to go full Klingon at some point, right? Like
Come on.
Talking about going full Mark Leonard,
Well, yeah, partly. I was thinking today as well. I was like, oh, those Telosians are really cool. That would be a neat thing to like bring back with the kind of Pike thing going on and all the rest. I know they touched on that in Discovery and all the rest, but and obviously, the Borg's a bit overdone right now, but like always cool, I was also wondering, could they ever do those black and white folks again? Like, is that like?
I don't
know. Is there any way to pull that in, like to make that work, or is that like,
If somebody can make that work, if somebody can make that work in 2022, that person needs to get like, I don't know, an Oscar. Please, I don't know.
I'm gonna say you probably see the Pakleds come back before they do.
I think that makes sense.
So, when everybody realized it was Balance of Terror, we were all expecting to see James Frain.
I know.
Not a diss.
Not a diss.
I don't take it as a diss. It's a complicated question, though, isn't it? I mean, like, anyway, sorry, it's complicated.
Are you gonna be Spock's daddy? Is it you now?
I'm not sure.
I can redo this one. It's too spicy.
Oh my!
Are you going to be Spock's dad? Are you going to be the new Sarek? Is that what is here for you in Star Trek down the line?
Here's a question for you. Like, how do you think Star Trek should play it? How do you think they should play it? Because they have me doing this on Strange New Worlds. They have James Frain on Discovery, and obviously, the internet's like it should have been James Frain, and I get it. Maybe it should have been. I'm happy for me, obviously.
It shouldn't have.
We talked about it, and to be honest, this is fun for us because we're fans, and it's kind of like a recurring joke that Mark Leonard ended up being a Romulan and a Vulcan. But I think Strange New World has been created in a way that it can bring new people to Star Trek, and that would be so weird and incomprehensible for so many people.
Yeah, some people just wouldn't get it.
If there were two Sareks, you mean, like one on Discovery and one on
Well,
yes,
but
or
seeing,
even the
seeing
same
you as the Romulan Commander, and maybe they hadn't seen Discovery, and Strange New Worlds makes them want to go watch Discovery, and then all of a sudden James Frain is Sarek. So it makes sense in the 60s, and you like certain actors, and that was the time back then. But like, I mean, it wouldn't have ever worked here. And I mean, I think they picked someone pretty damn good. So.
Oh, you're very kind. You're very kind. There are some hefty NDAs for Star Trek.
Oh, we know. We
know.
Yeah. I will say they brought me in to read for a character not so long ago. So you never know. You never know.
Well, now I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. That's all I'm going to say about that.
No, I know. It's like you got the sniper lasers on you right now.
Yeah, that's good. And then it goes quiet.
The new Jeffrey Combs. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions, friends?
I'm good.
Yeah.
You're all good. Okay.
I'm good. Yeah.
We want to thank you so much for joining us
and
answering all my weird tweets.
No, not weird at all. Like, Twitter goes crazy with a show like this as a finale, and your tweets were very warm, and I was happy to, talk with you. It was great. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of Twitter, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Sure. I'm at MacFaddo. MacFaddo on Twitter, and at Matthew MacFadzean, my name, on Instagram.
Any other fun project that you can tell us about? Non-spoiler.
The ones without
NDAs.
No NDAs. Yeah, I'm shooting a show called Rabbit Hole right now. It's Kiefer Sutherland's new espionage show.
I love Kiefer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really fun show, really smartly written, and I'm really enjoying that. And I'm also on Hardy Boys, and we're waiting to hear if we get another season of that. So we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Know
Thank
that
you.
Strange New Pod is always open to the Romulans.
Yeah.
We're not bad people. We are misunderstood. You know.
Exactly. Thank you.
You know. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Welcome back, guys. We really hope that you enjoyed that interview with the Romulan Commander himself. He was so good in A Quality of Mercy. That was Matthew MacFadzean. Just awesome. And thank you again to Giraffe for making that happen. That was all you. So good shit.
My Romulan connection.
Your Romulan connections. Jolan Trutal Shiar. Oh boy. Let's get into the episode because we are doing a big deep dive and breakdown. This is the Strange New Pod of old. We're doing some deep dives into the Strange New Worlds finale, A Quality of Mercy, and Balance of Terror because they are basically the same episode.
They coexist.
They coexist, and it is a wild ride. So let's get down to it. We're gonna have the round table tonight. It'll go Eric, Aaron, Hawk, Giraffe, then me, and both. Well, actually, that's not true. Balance of Terror starts with the wedding, and the attack on Outpost 4, We Know Stranger Worlds, starts with Pike getting, getting visited by the ghost of the original series
future
past. Yeah.
Well, actually, it starts with
the ghost
on the space station.
What starts on the space station?
Quality of Mercy.
The Quality of Mercy, yeah.
Yeah.
The meeting with Hansen.
Oh, that's
Sun.
no, that's the Ready Room. That's the Enterprise Ready Room. Yeah, because he walks out and goes to his quarters.
Yeah.
This podcast is already off the rails,
Yeah,
guys.
it's true. It's true.
Good night.
But where these guys, where these two episodes intersect is at the wedding and the attack on Outpost 4. Both weddings in both universes fatefully postponed by a red alert, sealing the fates of both Angela Martine and Robert Tomlinson, those poor fools, guaranteeing that they never, ever, ever, ever get married in either timeline, including the Kelvinverse. Just pointing that out. It's true.
I mean, that's what happens when you get married in space.
It's true.
Wait,
it's true.
Did this also happen in the movies?
It happened in Beyond. They die in Beyond. It's a whole thing. Yeah. Yeah. So their story changed a little bit between both episodes. What did you guys think of that change and does it work?
It was awesome. Like, so in the original one, we get Angeline surviving and Robert Tomlinson living. Dying. Sorry.
Dying.
My bad. And the reverse happens in this, but like seeing them and having the words spoken by Pike that Kirk ends up speaking at that moment, you're just sitting there like, that's the moment where you're like, oh shit, this is where it all comes together, and it's done so well. Like, sure, they're in the engine room, were they in the engine room in the new one?
They were in the cargo bay.
Yep. And they were in unnamed room in TOS with a giant ass
extra room
with a giant ass camera on the wall.
Weird thing on the what was going on?
It was just a room. They're just like, this is a nice place to get married. We moved all the boxes out. It's much nicer than the cargo room. The change, I thought it was, I like that they flipped it. You can't keep the same, or else people are just gonna be like, oh yeah, that person's gonna die, obviously. But nope, they swapped it to make it more sad because I guess he cared more about her than she cared about him, because she did not care in TOS.
Well, it is old school Hollywood for when a woman dies, it's sadder because of
Well,
sexism.
That's true. That's fair. Well, no, the guy died in the original one. So
the guy dies.
I know. I do like that. Yeah, that's
yeah.
unusual.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And NYR wrote no yeoman lurking around Pike at the wedding that I recall. Also
for sure.
True.
For sure. They didn't focus on these two so much in A Quality of Mercy, though. That's the only thing. So when they died at the end, I was like, that's cool, I guess. They're just sort of mirroring it. It would have been nice to, showcase them just a little bit. I know it's about Pike's story, but even so, they were that tragic aspect of this, knowing that they'll never be happy in any dimension of this of Star Trek.
Nope.
But yeah,
Well,
I think all the changes worked. I thought it was a nice flip on the head, and it was a good way to pull audience members into it.
Eric, have we seen those characters at all in Strange New World? Because I always liked when Voyager kind of set some of these things up a couple episodes early.
Nope.
Like, oh, let's meet this person. They do work here. We see them do,
Well,
feel like they're part of the crew.
I think especially we hadn't seen them because they probably weren't even on board the ship yet during the actual timeline of Strange New World.
They had a hard enough time showcasing the actual main characters that we had. So, showcasing little side characters probably wouldn't have worked.
Because I think that's how you make that mean something, right? Like you spend some time with them and it's like, oh, we're never to hear from again.
What I would be interested in is someone who's not a Star Trek fan and be like, oh, that was sad, I guess. Oh yeah, those were the two people that are trying to get married at the beginning. But we're all familiar with Bounce of Terror. So it's tragic because it's always happening. But yeah. Anyway.
Well, see, for me, okay, so I haven't seen this TOS episode like many TOS episodes. Should have watched it with Giraffe. Probably should have watched it before the actual Strange New Worlds episode, but I didn't know. Like you guys were talking about it, I was like, eh. So I start the episode and I didn't know that it was going to be the same thing, but from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So it starts and it's the wedding, and I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay. Because I remember Pike popping in and he was like, I guess we're doing a wedding. So yeah, that part was interesting for me, seeing it from another perspective and not knowing that was what was coming. And then just like seeing all the little differences, like all the Romulans gathered around the TARDIS, So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Timey-wimey. It's all silly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess it's me now. Yeah.
I started drinking. That means it's your turn.
Okay. I did love this little callback. Basically, I did not know a thing about Equality of Mercy when I was going into it.
Same.
Everybody was screaming about it, and that on Discord, and I wasn't listening because I didn't want any spoilers.
Not listening.
As soon as they dropped Pike into that situation, I was like, oh, this looks kind of familiar. Because to be honest, the wedding aspect of Balance of Terror, I always forget about that. So it was a nice little prize.
But she's the phaser operator, man.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to see in Strange New Worlds. The phaser room.
Phaser operator for this one episode.
Exactly.
She had to go and mourn him and take a leave of absence, never to be seen again.
Sorry, Hawk.
Okay. So, and yeah, the flip at the end, and that was, it was obviously tragic as it was in the original and that, but it just, it was there to reinforce the idea to Pike that, you can't avoid fate and that. And it's like, if you try and avoid fate and that, somebody else is going to end up taking your place within, fate's kind of scythe-like. Whatever. Anyways, I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to go on a tangent because it was like, I still
new?
don't know. Okay, so the actress that plays what's her name? Angela Martine.
Martine, yeah, she's
Martine.
She's a Sando, yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, just in TOS, the actress that plays Angela Martine is the one that plays Lieutenant Lisa that replaces
in season 3.
Yeah. So I don't like her to start with.
That bitch.
Anyway, Lieutenant Lisa. But then I saw that the actress that plays Angela Martine in Quality of Mercy is Mega Sandu, and I was like, is it Gia Sandu's sister? And apparently not, but she's Miss Universe Canada.
She's not. Oh,
apparently not. I don't know. I've seen nowhere. I didn't see that they were not sister. I've seen nowhere that they were actually sisters. Mm-hmm. So I'm like you bring two actresses with same last name, and I was like,
this is why we have a collective. Confirm or deny, please. Get on the internet right now as we record.
Well, I asked that last week and nobody helped me. I think they're not sisters. Yeah, I think they're not sisters. But she's Miss Universe Canada, and I'm like, good for you. Good for you, Angela Martine.
I wish I had the Christian Bale. Good for you.
Good for you. Good for
you.
Or you can do the Arrested Development. Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her. But I think that I rewatched Balance of Terror for I don't know,
100th
12
time.
billionth time in my life today. And you know what? I really like the little talk between Martin and Kirk at the end.
Yep.
You know, when he's
yeah.
like, you know, that's what it is. That's
Yep. Duty.
you know,
Yep.
there's no reason, there's no logic, there's no nothing, you know, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm gonna, you know, power on. And I was like, see, that's a nice touch.
Yeah.
I kind of like I had forgotten that part somehow, and I was not expecting it. But I was, yeah, you know, at the end, like you just see her cry in the sick bay, and there's no resolution to that part of the story, which because in Balance of Terror, it's all about duty, right?
Yeah.
It's all we are creatures of duty, and she's too, right? She doesn't get to get married. She survives this attack, and in the end, she's like alone. And it's such a nice way to close the episode of how they started it. And I kind of was like, that's missing. They should
Yeah.
have like done like a little like nudge to it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
'Cause
like she's dead. She's dead in Clarity of Mercy. Sorry, but like to the guy.
Yeah. But it's amazing.
You got it.
I will say it's amazing what they still managed to fit into 62 minutes. I think the episode ended up being. But
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded like an hour and 20-minute episode if we're
No, but
you know.
the thing is, like, it's such a pendant in
Yeah.
the episode. It's like
Yeah.
structured this way. If you start with the wedding, you know, that would have been a
Bookend
nice.
it with
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was not. I liked. That's where I started screaming. That's when they did the wedding, because there's like, where was I? And then they quote the exact line, like the duty of the captain, because it's about duty again. And I was like, yeah, the duty balance of terror. And I started throwing shit in my living room. And yeah.
woke up
I
all
feel like
the
I
neighbors.
remember. Did you text me saying you were screaming? I feel like I saw a text that said something to that effect.
Probably. She texted me.
No, I didn't text. I don't text you about like episodes I know you didn't watch.
Oh, moving on to the next part. Both episodes. Red Alert pertains to the unfortunate attack on Outpost 4. The sequence is one of a handful that goes pretty much like word for word in both Quality Mercy and Balance of Terror. And word for word, shot for shot. Key difference here, obviously, is Pike asking about Hanson's son because he meets him before he goes into the future, right? And he knows that he's one of the kids that dies during that training operation. So that little difference, like, was your son there? And he goes, no, thank God. Like, no, he's somewhere else. Watching these two scenes pretty much like in unison, I know it gave me goosebumps. How did this work for you guys?
Oh, it's amazing. After I saw this sequence, I went on my computer and I have two monitors. So I was like, I gotta play Quality Mercy here. I gotta Balance of Terror over here.
That's
And I was like,
cool.
Yeah.
can I click both at the same time and make sure it goes? And it is. It's pretty much shot for shot, just like way prettier. And it was like Nami did amazing work, like to give it that same feel as Balance of Terror, because Balance of Terror is a fucking tense episode all the way through. Like it was that submarine. Like I think Hawk said that last week. It's a submarine episode where it's just incredibly tense, and she built it to feel the same without, you know, directly ripping off Balance of Terror. And like watching Ali Hassan take that role as the outpost leader was amazing, and seeing him die in the most 60s way ever.
Oh, it was
way
so
more.
cheesy and so amazing.
Way more than the guy in Balance of Terror, because he just went and then fire happened. So I appreciated that they upped the cheesiness, but they kept the attention, and it was an amazing homage to that sequence.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, the tension is exactly what I think of when I was watching that. And, you know, the Strange New Worlds one. I think for me, it's always hard to watch these, like the older episodes, I'm going to be honest, because it is cheesy and it's very like, you know, the set's a little more simple looking and things like that. I'm totally honest. That's hard for me. But like you guys said, like Nami does an amazing job. And I'm sad I missed that pod, by the way. Nami, I love you. But it's amazing how you can take something. The show is supposed to be set in the same time as that show, and they look so different. But the fact that that sort of camera work still works. I mean, it's obviously adapted, right? Like it moves in a slightly different way, but it feels, you feel the same thing and you recognize it.
It's
I think
amazing.
that's a
Real
real-
quick, Aaron. It's amazing because you mentioned the camera work. Jorg, who just does brilliant work on Twitter, screen capping everything. The cinematography is like I mentioned in the outline is pretty much shot for shot from the way Pike is standing to the way the set is. I'm not lit because it was always bright in the 60s, but just every like little nuanced thing that they can make it look almost exactly like Balance of Terror they did, and I thought that was so fucking cool. Sorry.
Yeah, but well,
I tried not to laugh because you said it was lit, and I was like, the kids today will understand.
But they even lit like I hate that I said that. You know when Spock looks into
Hashtag lit.
into his little goggle things and it reflects off, and you can see that in the actual in the sequence too, and you're like, fuck, man, cool. That's cool. Just make it a little bit cooler.
If they had the technology, and honestly that we had been making shows and movies long enough, because it's clearly like you can see that, you know, we haven't been making shows and stuff very long. The acting still wasn't there, blah blah blah. But like, can you imagine if they had what we have now in terms of like technology and the way we make things and the production value? Like, I can't imagine what that show would look like. But then, like, again, like inversely, like how amazing would it'd be beamed into our brains. So
I feel like a lot of the amazingness of Star Trek back in the day was that they didn't have the budget, so they had to get creative and do things that they
still
didn't think outside of. But they made it feel that amazing.
Yeah.
Giraffe, you're muted.
I'm ready.
Sorry. It's nothing.
Okay.
Listen to her.
I'm up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The shot for shot thing was great. The one thing that always stood out for quality and mercy in that was that lighting that they did, where they would
on the eyes
brighten up across the eyes and that, and just kind of do that shadow underneath and that. I love that little callback. But like the biggest change obviously is the amount of visual effects they could put in that. Like Eric said in that, you know, it's like when you know the station number 4 is destroyed and that we get big flashing light and that's about it. And then the description afterward has been pulverized or atomized. But to actually see it and that what happened to it and that just, you know, just like a couple miles of iron ore just disintegrating into space and this is what I love about having Star Trek on television in this time period. And that we got all the production, all the
guys. I need to interrupt this Star Trek podcast for breaking news. I've been researching and trying to find a cosplay situation, and Giraffe just found it and sent it to me, so it's happening. Yay! Star Trek related. Don't get mad at me, Julian.
I want to know what the hell is going on.
We're texting.
Obviously, you're not.
You know what? This
you're
is
not subtle.
San Diego Comic-Con is like next week. Okay, I need to order it like now.
What are you guys texting
From
about?
Canada,
Star Trek?
too, but I found the exact
so
one. The exact one.
I might have to send it to Jesus. How am I gonna get that in time? Okay, so
I
it's
thought you were
jacket. It's Ortegas's cosplay, but it's her actual, you know, her like casual outfit, which Giraffe says isn't real cosplay, but it is real cosplay, and I know she believes it because she helped me find the jacket. So you can see this at San Diego Comic-Con on my body.
Yeah.
Hawk, you were saying?
I want to go off of what Hawk said. The CG, like, it's incredible how cinematic and how professional, like, just the top quality CG artists they have on this show, because it could have just been like any other CG that we see on TV, but this is like this and The Expanse. I wonder if they use the same company because it's very like detailed and it's like incredibly well done.
Well, Eric, I mean, just Outpost 4 exploding and then seeing the reflection of the explosion on the hull and on the cells, like I was like, dude.
I know, like what the
and for the CG artist to like line it up so perfectly, where it's just like that blew me away. No pun intended.
When I saw this, I was like, why didn't they show this in theaters? They should have showed this episode in theaters because I would have went and saw it because it's cinematic quality.
Cool.
Oh yeah. Just transfer it over to film. That would have been incredible.
They do digital projection now, man. It's digital projection.
Hawk, did you have anything else?
No, I think I'm good. Hashtag casual cosplay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was not listening.
Important
Hawk.
stuff.
Did you miss having both of us on the podcast at the the same time.
A Vulcan
You notice
can't lie, so I'm going to
there's
keep my mouth shut.
very little overlap of us because the two of us, we are so powerful that it's hard to contain us
It's gonna
within one
break it.
podcast.
Also,
I
I
just
think
have. Oh,
sorry,
ahead, sorry.
just the very nature. I think this feels like kind of the last day before summer, summer break and not in school. So it's like we're
it's like
in class, but we're not really.
One week
we're just
break.
screwing around.
We're going on a 1 week break.
All right, school's out. Are you gonna play it on the board?
I'll put it in post. Giraffe.
I just really like the fact that he jumped. He was like, like in TOS.
It's the best
I just have to
spin.
say it.
It
It
was the
was
best.
like incredible. Yeah, sure, it's prettier, but I like the TOS one too because it's just so fun to see the bird of prey and so on.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. There's like something of nostalgia. Sure, it's prettier in Strange New World. It's actually they kept like the same old school Romulan bird of prey.
They did.
Like,
They didn't
yeah.
update it like pretty much at all. It's awesome with the big
But-
like bird logo on the bottom.
The
too. It's
literal bird.
bird. Yeah, it's a bird.
Yes.
I really liked Eric. Can you remind me the actors' names who played Commander Hansen?
Ali Hassan.
Holly Hassan. How he delivered the lines like it was literally Balance of Terror. It was just like when he goes Enterprise, can you see? Like, just like the damage that had been done, and
We're
the
a
way
mile down.
yeah, it was just so well acted and so Balance of Terror, and when the flames are up there, and it's like obviously the effects are better, but it still managed to have that 60s like I don't know aesthetic and feel, and obviously just like the cheesy ass flip. Oh God, like, dude should win an Oscar.
I totally forgot to ask Matthew how it felt to blow up Ali Hassan because he's like a biggish name person in Canada.
Yeah, that's so funny. Another interesting note and change that comes after the destruction of Outpost 4 is Farragut. It comes to the aid of Enterprise in Balance of Terror. Kirk talks about trailing the bird of prey and how Enterprise and Farragut would look nothing more than a sensor echo. But in this episode, it's obviously said with Kirk in command of the Farragut and not on board the Enterprise. And do you guys think it was important in Quality of Mercy to establish that Kirk, even though he's not captain of the Enterprise, and that brings like a certain bit of bravado, that he still has that tactical acuteness and expertise?
Yeah, like we were saying last week, it's the fact that people don't realize is that Kirk is a tactical genius. Like he is so fucking smart. He was the only one to pass, that test in the Academy. So like he's so incredibly smart, despite where he is. Like he could be on the Farragut, he could be like on a fucking freighter. Yeah, exactly. And he would still think outside the box.
He could be on the can.
Ways.
I could make that reference now.
Oh my God. I loved it. When I first heard that the Farragut was coming in, you're just like, oh shit, is this gonna be Kirk? And it's Kirk, and you see him, and you don't expect it. And for him to have that same pull with his crew there that he does on the Enterprise, it was a good way to show how he commands a situation, and it doesn't matter where he is. He knows what's best for that moment. And you really see that, especially at the beginning, and especially with the plans. And he gets into the head of enemies, or I want to say not enemies, but maybe adversaries. They might not be enemies because they sort of, maybe could have been friends in another timeline.
Right.
Opponents.
Yeah, opponents. And he has a way of sort of thinking like them, and because he's sneaky and like, I don't want to say manipulative, but he can sit in the shoes of other people and realize what they would do tactically, maybe what they would do. He can, when on those Criminal Minds shows where they're like, I can profile this, and I feel like Kirk is one of those people that can really get a person really fast by their actions. And that's always been something that I've felt about Kirk tactically and even personally. That's why he meets so many ladies. I'm done, Aaron.
I mean, I feel like you said it. It's like, to me, I thought at the beginning of the Strange New Worlds episode that this was all about, like, they're starting to set up Kirk and this whole thing. But then at the end, it's not even about, well, I mean, it's sort of about him, but it's about Spock. And that surprised me because the whole time I was sort of watching to see in the I was going to say the original episode. For me, the original episode is the Strange New Worlds one.
Fair.
But yeah, it's weird, right? Like the perspective.
Well,
But
that's the one you watched first, so yeah.
yeah, and you see that Pike is trying to measure up Kirk and thinks that he's a problem. And then we as the audience are like, is Pike not going to do the right thing? Or would it be better if someone else was here? Or is because it's that paradox of because you know, are you still making the same decision? Or because you know, will you make a different decision? I think that's always a fun sort of game to play. And I like when he talked to his brother and everything, but I also like seeing it from the other perspective of like Kirk's been in this ship for a little while. Like he would have been in that ship for like over 6 months, right? Yeah. So not even that long, which I think it's very early for Spock to be calling him Jim. Like I was like, oh, timeline wise, but
But they know each other
know.
from the academy in both timelines, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, fair enough. I don't know. It's really interesting to see the differences. Like I like that they did it, honestly, because it's kind of cool to see something that sits parallel but was made so far apart. Like, and so they actually were able to make it work in a really fun way that made it like interesting to watch, an old episode.
I'm glad that they took the time to like establish like Kirk's intuitiveness in this situation, because like for Balance of Terror, that was the first time we'd kind of been introduced to the idea of the cloaking technology.
Yes.
Right. So we didn't know like how it worked or what it was and that, and Kirk was the one in Balance of Terror who made all those very intuitive like observations about it, how it when it opened fire, he kind of deduced that it would be what is necessary for them to drop the cloak before they could use their weapon. Also about the power cost involved in running the cloak and that. And I'm glad they mirrored that in a Quality of Mercy in that, because it was between him and Spock in a Quality of Mercy, and that we're basically giving like them their tactical information and then like giving Pike like the idea of what to do next, since he was technically in charge of that mission. So I'm really glad they kept that part in.
Yeah. Before Giraffe goes, I just want to read these 2 comments from Twitch because they're great points from NYRLite. It's sad that we know that Hansen and his son both die in the line of duty in the proper timeline. His son, who's a cadet during Pike's incident, and obviously him on Outpost 4 during the Romulan situation. Then we just watching this, since it looks like Pike's accident happened not long before Balance of Terror, it means Hansen's still grieving his son when this attack happened. So just like brutal situation for him, unfortunately. So great.
Wait. Oh, in the real timeline?
Mm-hmm.
So in the real timeline, his son like that's canon now. His son dies, and then he also dies I think he said that's like 6 months. Spock said the accident was 6 months ago. So 6 months later, then he dies. So it's like a brutal, yeah. So you're up.
I forgot what I was gonna say, but I
Kirk.
can improvise. Yeah, I don't care. Well, I like
James
the fact
T.
that James T, JTK. I like the fact that he was a lieutenant on the Farragut, and when like everything blew out, that there was like this picture of Kirk in Strange New Worlds, everybody was like, "What about the Farragut? What about the Farragut?" And actually, it's interesting to see that he goes from lieutenant to captain of that ship in what, 6 years?
6 years. Yeah, he's the youngest captain in the Starfleet. In
Like,
both universes. Yeah.
So that
Pretty
means that
ballsy of him, though, to be all opinionated on another person's ship. I just have to say.
Yeah, it's James Kirk.
yeah, and that's what, like when he comes out of the transporter being like, "You flinched." I was like,
Talk now.
balls on that
Yeah.
man.
I'd be like, "Whoa, man, whoa! How about thanks for saving my life? Appreciate you saving my crew. We'll never see any of them again in this episode."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no, I like the fact that it gives you more. Again, it's what we said last week, but more. It's clearer how genius he is, how
Yes.
brilliant he is. And you see it in Balance of Terror a lot because like he literally is saving the
Well,
Wolf
and he gets to
Federation.
shine, and he gets to shine in that episode,
Yeah.
right? Like he does not relent. He doesn't let up, even after they get nuked. It's just like boom, boom, boom.
And that's what I
So-
was saying too. He has these like anthropological intelligence too, of like
Yeah.
reading another culture and being like, yeah, no, they're gonna we cannot do that. That's what we should do, but that's not what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
But no, I really like to see the Farragut. I have to say that the best part about the Farragut is when Spock reads the sensor thing, like
The
the
sensor.
visor,
Sensor.
Yeah.
visor, and like you see like written like Enterprise and Farragut on his
Yeah.
face. That was gorgeous.
It was a nice touch.
I'm into it.
I really liked even I like that they show his just his tactical acuteness and how much of an genius he is at that. But what I really like even no, I guess it is after he shows up. When Pike is talking to Sam and that Sam talking to Pike reminds me a little bit about the Genesis cave scene from Wrath of Khan and how they're talking about Kirk and like who he is and not liking to lose.
I love that scene. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
it was just so good. He follows a path that differs from everybody else, and he doesn't like to lose. That being said, he's still one of the best captains Starfleet has to offer, and they make that a very important point here. So I like that. Let's move on more to just like in TOS. In both these episodes, we get the Romulan reveal via crazy stupid space magic, but we'll just let it go. And we also get the bigotry. So that also, yeah, like I said, the Romulan reveal is almost shot for shot, except the commander's confidant and best friend is not in this episode, which is an interesting note. And on both Enterprises, Kirk's and Pike's, there's just this issue of once they see that the Romulans also have pointed ears, there's this just gross bigotry both from Styles and Ortega's in Strange New Worlds case. Last week on the pod, I think we all agreed that it worked with Ortega's. I know some people in the chat disagreed. But Styles had an excuse, right? He had this excuse that it was, family history from the Romulan Federation War. Not that should ever.
Well, excuse isn't the right word. He has history.
Sorry, yes.
Personal
You're
history.
absolutely right. He has personal history. He had family who fought in that war, and it's reminiscent, kind of those who were affected by the Federation Cardassian War. We see Miles has some of that prejudice against Cardassians in both TNG and Deep Space Nine. Let's talk more about families or friends kind of passing down unwarranted bias.
Well, how much time do you have?
Right.
I don't know if you know, but we've been in a pandemic. No, I'm just joking.
Oh my god, really?
This theme is so incredibly important, not just to me, there are a lot of fans. But I love starting off the way that Pike versus Kirk act. Like Kirk is I believe Giraffes is the one who said it. He's like he doesn't take that shit. He's like, that doesn't deserve to be here on the bridge. Get out if you have to.
Leave the bigotry in the quarters, sir.
But Pike this year, he's the guy with the big heart. He's like, chill, man, chill. We can find some resolution. Maybe we sit down, have a
Smoke
steak,
this.
right? I was gonna say have some barbecue. It'll make you feel better. But man, I love the way Melissa Navia played Ortega's and how hard and
Agreed.
just like everything felt like the world was on her shoulders and that she was just trying to keep the ship alive and keep all of these people in this incredibly tense situation. And there's this like unknown assailant that's just attacking these bases. So what I really wish is that we had that little bit of what happened. Like, why are you angry at Spock even before this happened? Is there something that happened interspecies, like conflict or whatnot with her family, or maybe a partner or whatnot? That I really did enjoy that Styles was like, this is a history. Like 100 years ago there was a captain Styles. Like that that would have felt a little bit more, grounded for Ortegas. Not that she did anything wrong. I really liked her. I just wanted to know more, especially having seen her previously in this season. But maybe we'll get that in season 2 moving forward. We don't know.
Yeah.
I hope. That would be amazing. Not that I wanted to turn into this hard ass 7 years later.
But the way that she played it was awesome.
Was amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see, what is it? It's the tension, like not just the ears, it's the eyebrows and the haircut.
Yeah,
how could you not be like, oh my god, these guys are the exact same, and not having seen them is, even though on Enterprise you sort of saw them, like the reaction of the crew on both, like in both TOS and on Strange New Worlds, was just the perfect thing. Like, and this was done back in the 60s, right? During the Red Scare. So, there were communists everywhere and spies. Yeah. Everyone was already on edge. So to bring that into a more xenophobic era, even now, like there are people that are afraid of immigrants or of people of different color. So it's amazing how Star Trek, even though we play these themes, they always seem relevant, even though you think we'd get past it. It just morphs into something else. Hopefully we can learn from it and move forward. But, I thought that was, what it is.
I mean, I think you're totally right. I also think that Ortegas has joined the Federation. They just had a war with the Klingons, right? And war, when places are going into war or in a war, in the past we've seen, in our own history that, there's a lot of propaganda and things like this. And for young people, which is what they need, this is the way we get people into like the military or maybe the Federation.
Yeah. Of course.
You have this big bad enemy, and it's scary and you don't know a lot about it, so you can dehumanize it. And that's the Romulans. The Romulans are basically like the Cylons in BSG. The war has been long over. They've got a treaty. No one's seen them in a long time. And then they show up and act like assholes. So, and the last time we saw them, they destroyed a bunch of shit. And so for Ortegas, this is, I think, her first. She hasn't been in. Was she in the war, the Klingon War? It seems like maybe she joined right. Maybe she was.
No,
in the
she must
academy.
have been. She must have been.
She must have
Based
been,
on her
because
rank,
she's a transfer, right? Yeah.
And she's the same age than Detmer, and Detmer was on the Shenjo, so
I think Ortegas wasn't on Enterprise yet. Yeah.
We need a book about
I'd be
her.
curious for the backstory of that. Yeah. Oh, yes, that'd be great.
Yeah.
John Jackson Miller, get on that. I'm making demands now, but I think that she has maybe not seen a lot of devastation or a lot of people that she knows die, because I think that kind of energy comes from. I've seen it because I was in ROTC in college and I saw it there. And I didn't recognize it then, but now I see it. Like, people really excited about this abstract view of what this will be, not saying that they're excited, but like they don't really see the cost of it. So I think she sees an enemy and she's like, we got to take this out, which isn't, it's not bad or good. It's just not experienced, I think. And you see Pike has the experience, and he's normally so open to hearing everyone's opinions, but he knows this is wrong and he shuts it down. And that just shows his experience. And also that for him, that's a coaching lesson for her, right? Like, she is learning in that moment. She might not like it, but she's learning. And that's something I really like about Pike. I think he hears people and he knows when to hear more and when to be like, we're done. This is over. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Ortega's taking over the Styles role was always kind of interesting on that, because as we pointed out, it is a different Ortegas. It's a Ortegas from 7 years in the future. And she seems so different, from the one that we know, not from the previous 9 episodes of the series. Given that also, when I was watching Balance of Terror and the big reveal and that came up about, and I was wondering that, how did the Vulcans never realize that the Romulans were an offshoot of their own,
Yeah.
Oh, they know. They just don't say anything.
They don't talk about it.
Yeah.
The Vulcans don't say anything until they're asked. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't ask them. You didn't ask them the exact question. Are Romulans looking exactly like you? And they will be like, no, because it's not exactly the same.
Oh my god.
And the Federation be like, and why didn't you ever tell us this? Because you
never
haven't asked until now.
It's because you're
Yeah.
humans.
So-
Back then, who would've-
That is a terrible answer, by the way. Yeah.
And you know, so when I was watching it, I was like, that's why like all the hard stares came at Spock and Led on the bridge, like pretty much from everybody, you know. That, and it also brought up the possibility of Romulans, you know, already having spies, you know, in the Federation at that point, you know.
Yeah.
So that said, I'm glad they didn't lean too hard into that inequality of mercy and that she had her little say in that, and that got shut down. And then when Spock, you know, piped up and said, "We got to blow these people up," in that, because like if they get across the border, we're fucked.
Yeah.
You know, that pretty much got them back on the same page. So I was glad they took it in that direction and didn't lean as heavy into the racism angle.
He sort of did the same thing in TOS too, didn't he?
Well, because Spock saves his life in the end too. So
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
Styles in that episode is just he won't let go of it.
yeah, he doesn't
you know.
relent. Yeah,
Fox leans over his shoulder and he just turns and gives him that, you know, just like that hard look. It's like, you know, I don't trust you. You know,
But there are more layers in Balance of Terror, because first of all,
Yeah.
the Romulans exactly look like
Mhm.
Vulcans, like
yeah.
exactly.
They didn't have the
Mhm.
northerner budget makeup
Right?
in TOS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Styles is actually super interesting. He's an interesting character in Balance of Terror, because yes, he's relentless, but he's also right, because he's
Yeah.
the one telling them they are a militaristic empire. They do that because they want to see if we're weak. And he has a problem with Spock, but you know what? Have you worked with people that are like Spock? Because
Yes.
I've worked with people who are like Spock, and to be honest, after like 2 weeks, I want to kind of like strangle them.
Mhm.
Let's be honest, not to excuse
They're
the
not-
bigotry or whatever, but
They slow things down.
when they're like, I don't understand why Erica Ortegas has a problem with Spock. I can like have a million idea why she may have a
Yeah.
problem with Spock. And actually, there's a very good comment on Twitch that he replaced Una, and that may be a little bit,
Oh, true. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like the Wonder Boy a little bit. So yeah.
Oh.
So I do think that I loved how Melissa Navia played the part, especially because for us it's kind of a shock, like what happened, and letting us a little bit in the, you know, in the unknown about why
Yeah.
she's acting like that is great, because it opens the door for a story,
Mhm.
and it can be a book, it can be a next season. So that, in my opinion, that's good. Okay. And
I wonder
yeah.
if Spock is gonna take her spot next season as well, because she's gone.
Henry Alonzo Meyer said in an interview that this is still the Pike Spock Una thing, so I think that's going to get resolved in like the first 2 episodes or
But-
so.
Lon is gone, so is there anybody else that is a commander?
I kind of want them all to stay longer. Like, I know that we have to transition to the.
There's 7
The
years.
crew.
There's
7 years.
Yeah,
Six
but I feel
now.
like it's already happening, and I don't want it because I like everybody.
I don't think Una's leaving. I just meant,
No,
do you think
Una's not
Spock's gonna take her spot when she's gone for like the
Oh,
search?
yes.
Well, she's
I think
gone,
so.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
She's in charge, number one.
Yeah, what was I saying? Damn.
I don't remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know now. And the fact that, okay, they do speak about like the pointier pointier elephant in the room, but they look at Spock, but it's not as like pointed to Spock in A Quality of Mercy. There's like innuendo, it's kind of there, but
Yeah.
it's not as heavy as in Balance of Terror, because the Romulans in A Quality of Mercy are TNG Romulans. They
Yeah.
have the forehead and so on, which is kind of like a tell that they're not Vulcans, you know?
Right.
And I think that's why maybe they did it, so they can like navigate out of the, are they Vulcans? And it's easier. So yeah, I think they kind of like changed the makeup so they don't have to actually follow that lines too close.
Yeah. Also in Balance of Terror, after that initial Vulcan reveal, the biggest difference in the original is that we get really nice focus on not only Mark Leonard's Romulan commander, but it's also, you know, conversations with him and his closest friend, his sub-commander, who has served with him for years and years. And this brings like a big look into the mindset of the other side, which I don't think that we get as much, except when the Romulan commander is talking with the guy who like snitches him out. But they're just like great character moments in Balance of Terror, and just great acting. Like, listen, we talk about him. Like, Mark Leonard's a fucking legend. Period. End of story. Do you guys think it was maybe a mistake to leave his friend out of this episode, or did it work just to have that conflict between him and the sub commander in Quality of Mercy?
Personally, I think it was a mistake to not have him, because in the original, that's where we find out that he has respect for Kirk and all of his all of his tactical maneuvers, and how he's like, oh, I won't make that mistake again, all that stuff. It was great to have him play off of this person, but I feel like in Quality of Mercy, we didn't get as much of the Romulan commander as we did in Balance of Terror. So maybe that's why they cut it out, just to give more focus to Matthew playing the role.
It's also Pike's story too, right? Like in Balance of Terror, it's very much about the commander and Kirk, but this is really about Perk. Who the fuck is Perk?
Perk. It's Perk's story.
Spike Perk.
For sure. Like,
that's their shippy names on AO3.
But definitely Balance of Terror. It was about them facing off each other the whole time. That's what made it really tense, was having these two great commanders and their submarines try to blow each other up. And that really wasn't the story this way. It was really about, again, Kirk, but with Pike, and what they would have done. So that's why they focused more on that instead of maybe the commander. And I'm fine with that, because we got that story. Matthew still did an amazing job as a commander, and everyone loved him. So it's not like the role suffered for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I don't have anything as good to say as that. So I'm just going to go off the rails and be like, those Romulan helmets were very
amazing.
Like bird person, right?
Yeah, bird person.
I was dying. Like, they were on a TARDIS with the bird person helmets, wearing like the colorful sash, which Giraffe, by the way, has perfected. I'm really excited to see in person. This whole podcast, by the way, is just going to be about cosplay, so deal with that.
We should do an episode this summer about cosplay.
I just said that to Giraffe, did I not? I said we should get Bernadette, see if she'll come back and just do cosplay cosplay and costumes, and like, so I want to know like her perspective on that more, because we talked about it a little but not a lot. Listen, this is the thing that needs to happen. Listen to me.
Talk.
The absence of his friend on it was noticeable, obviously, in that, but also because of like how tightly the story was being told in Quality of Mercy, and that having to focus more on Pike in this, from the past here, trying to figure out what the hell was going on and trying to, do what he's got to do. And we got all the same kind of messaging about this Romulan captain, and that from the scenes that we did get in Quality of Mercy, and that how he was basically he was just this was just his another war for Romulus, hooray. He was unhappy having to do this mission in the first place, and that, but at the same time he was surrounded by wolves, and that waiting for him to show weakness, and that, and waiting for him to waiting for them to pounce on him, and that when he just had to keep doing it. He keep going on. I loved how much attention they gave him in Balance of Terror, and that these scenes, and that where we really explored the guy. He was just like so tired of war, and that it's like he absolutely hated being on this mission, because he knew that if they succeeded, that's what they were headed for, and that gave the Romulan Star Empire their excuse to invade and the Federation. But also that scene after his friend passed away, and that it showed him that he was also a creature of duty in that, and the fact that he put his friend out through like a disposal tube.
Yeah, that was dark,
right?
Dark.
Put the body in there too.
No honor.
Sorry,
no
old friend,
honor.
I gotta use you one more time.
I kind
of think that's pretty boss. Like, I'm dead.
It is a boss move. Yeah. Exactly. He's like, it's like, I hate doing this, but I still have to
I
do
think
it
it's a
because I'm-
cool way to go
Yeah.
out. Like,
Yeah.
explode me into another ship. I'm here for it. Let's do
His
it.
friend would have appreciated the move, I think.
Yeah,
He
right.
definitely
Yeah.
would have.
Yeah. Cool death. Well, after
think-
death.
I think too, it's not the same audience, to be honest. Like in Balance of Terror, you're talking to like it's end of the 60s. You have a lot of people who've been in the war. You have a lot of the cast war veterans
Yeah.
too,
Mhm.
right? And you see these two guys are like they're the army men, right? Creatures of duty. Like they've seen so many war, and they're from a militaristic culture too. So basically, they've been
North Korea.
in endless war, right? Which you see, they talk a little bit of it in Equality of Mercy. Like, you only knew war, so you don't know what it is to be at peace. And
The way he delivers
What-
that line too.
yeah,
Oh, it's so good. You don't know a time without war. Oh,
yeah, which is basically what the Romans want, right?
yeah, exactly.
So I think like these two guys were good in Balance of Terror to get to know the Romulans, right? Because this was the first time they were on TV. So you have like this back and forth, you understand what they're about and so on. Now, let's say, sure, there's a lot of new audience for Strange New World, but you go on Memory Alpha for 10 seconds, like you watch maybe some Picard, like you know what the Romulans are about.
Yeah.
You don't need all this like conversation to get to know that they are like this. And then there's the young guy, right? The sub commander.
He wants
which
his
is,
time
by
to
the way,
shine. Yeah.
in Balance of Terror, he's played by the same actor that plays Stone, who's like
Yes.
T'Pring's assistant.
Yep. You mean
And I was like,
lover?
yes,
Lover.
Well, he's still assistant in Stern. Well, you know what I mean.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was like, oh, another actor. They could have, switched. But I didn't think about this. Anyway, these guys, like the young guy, right, that was born in this culture, always knew war, was bred for it, and like only knows this. And he contacts the Praetor because he's very happy about what they did, which in Balance of Terror, in Equality of Mercy, is a bit warped because
Yes.
he contacts them to tell on the commander, right?
Undermine, yeah.
And I think it's the Quality of Mercy has these two Romulans talking, which is for us, it makes more sense. It talks better, it speaks better to nowadays audience than having these two weathered army guys talking back and forth about what to do and dying for duty and so on. So I think they actually really turned that Romulan crew in a way that make them more relevant to the audience nowadays,
Yeah,
as
makes
they
sense.
were relevant for the audience in the end of the 60s. So I think it's beautiful. It's very well done. I mean, I was really invested in that crew. I wanted to be in their little cramped triangular green space.
Artist.
I'm just here for keeping canon and showing an image of the Singularity warp drive that never gets talked
Oh
about.
my God, so much.
Yes.
Like, you remember how much I bitched about this
Yep.
during Discovery?
I do indeed. And I will have to say, I kind of agree with you. Like, did I love the scenes with Mark Leonard and his friends and the way they acted that? Because it felt like they'd known each other for years. Maybe they did as actors in the 60s. It was a different time.
Yeah.
So it was easy to act off that. But I didn't miss it in Quality of Mercy. I did like having the subordinate be kind of a dick, and having that moment and that be like the difference in this episode. So I agree that it worked for me. And like you said, like when they get blown up, it's sad. Like I would have liked to know more about them. I would have liked to see Matthew in the role a little bit more, but not that we'd ever really get it in Strange New Worlds because we're not supposed to know the Romulans yet. But,
Yeah. But I
But
got what I
agree.
wanted. Everybody made fun of me when
I
I said I
know,
wanted
I know.
Romulans. But see, they heard
I
me.
know.
Star Trek listened to me. They read my tweets.
There we go.
Oh,
I just want to jump in
okay, go
real
ahead.
quick, guys. I'm sorry. I just think like what you're saying is true, and I really like you have the old commander who he's like, we've been doing this forever and we're going to keep doing it. But the biggest problem with war is that everyone who like makes the decisions, it's all political, and they're like not in the war. So it's of course they're going to keep the war. That's more important to them than the people. And I just feel bad for this guy who's like, he tried to do the right thing. He's trying to help his people. And at the end of the day, he's got to die for honor or doing the thing. And I'm sure he knows that that's bullshit, but he also knows that what else is he going to do? That's
Right,
literally what's going
exactly.
to happen no matter what. So they die with honor, and their families probably get like, you know, some money, hopefully. But like,
they
what
either
a
get nothing or
shitty
they
way
get
to
killed.
die.
Honestly, the way the Romulans are, man. And
Yeah.
what we know about how they treated their own people during the Romulan supernova. Oof. I don't think their
That's what I mean.
families
It's
got
like,
anything.
what are you dying for? You know,
Yeah.
and it's I think that's the worst
The
thing. Like,
Empire.
if
You die for the
You're dying for the
Empire.
glory of the Romulan
Yeah,
Empire.
But see, if you're
Yeah.
gonna die jumping on a grenade. So you get that moment of like, I did something. Dying in that way sucks because you're like, I hope somehow mattered. I guess dead.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and the Romulan Commander in Balance of Terror does get that glorious
Mhm.
death that they all strive
Yeah.
for. Kind of like Klingons.
Yeah.
The Klingons
Glorious.
and Romulans share that a little bit.
You go to
If you're
Valhalla.
not swinging a sword, it's not that glorious. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Just like, you know, just to show, because I have an incredible item with me. Sorry for people who are listening to the
Ooh.
Oh,
podcast.
boy.
But
Watch the podcast, Twitch.
Breaking out a dossier,
have
everyone.
a script of Balance of Terror.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know if you
dope.
see.
I see.
Oh,
Sarah.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
Romulan Commander. That's
And
amazing.
there's a Romulan Commander, and it's drawn by hand by
That's
the
so
person that
awesome.
owned
I
the
love all the
script.
old stuff that
That's
had
so
stuff
cool.
like that.
And there's a free drawing that was stuck in it too, and it's
Oh,
Wow.
That looks so good.
awesome. That's so awesome.
And I'm gonna tell you one more thing. It's not an official script. It's people when they were watching the show on TV during in the 60s, they would draw like frames of the by hand, like really fast,
Fan art.
and they would type the dialogue. So it's not an official script. It's somebody would type the dialogue of Balance of Terror while it was on TV.
Early
That's
nerd.
awesome. Early nerds,
Yeah.
baby.
That's amazing.
And
Doing
it's
the
one of like
Lord's
the
work.
it's one of the thing that I like the most because at some places they
Cylon
don't
Lords.
know what they're saying and they just put like interrogation point or point because they missed what they were being said. And I just love this as a fandom item.
That's
you
really
know,
cool.
For me, it's like more precious than like I mean, I want an official script if somebody has one to sell to me. I will take it.
No, I
And
love that though. That's
Then of
beautiful.
Balance of Terror, I'm about it. But this is absolutely a great item that I love, and I cannot show much because I'm gonna finish in a second. That drawing actually had colors. You can see it behind,
Oh, okay.
but with the time, just like faded to all black.
Yeah.
So I keep it, away from light a lot.
That's
That
fair.
That would be cool if you could
Crazy.
find
So
who
cool.
did that.
Yeah.
So I actually know who did that, which is very interesting because the person with it signed actually
Oh.
won a Hugo Award.
Oh,
that's Oh,
you're kidding.
cool.
Illustration, yeah, in the 70s or something.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Man,
dude,
this episode really has everything.
it does have everything. Let's talk about the pincer move, right? Because two very different situations, but still very similar in both the way that they, mirrored the visuals in 2022 compared to the 60s, and then some of the outcome, right? In both realities, the pincer move doesn't work. Romulan Commander's too smart, seen too much war, knows what the Enterprise is doing. Major difference is when Kirk is in the chair, when he's in command of the Enterprise, he doesn't relent and he attacks. Just attack. Phasers on full. Even badly damaged with casualties after the Bird of Prey's power weapon and nuke attack, Enterprise is still just like no match, right? For the Romulan vessel. This is the difference between Kirk and Pike. We've seen the outcome of the pincer move with Pike in command and eventually the war that it leads to, but doesn't really lead to. What did we think about these two very outcomes, right? Because one starts a war and one prevents a war.
I thought it was amazing. Like, other than just the visuals and all the sound stuff, seeing Pike and Kirk play this whole sequence so differently, really shows the heart of each of those characters. Like we were talking with Matthew of how Pike is really a captain that leads with his heart, and him hesitating shows that he wants to still make friends with the Romulans or at least peace, and it really just leads to war because he doesn't understand them as an adversary, unlike Kirk, who is so tactical, like we keep saying this whole episode. Having Pike just hesitate and Kirk berate him for that is a perfect example of that. I thought it was amazing that peace led to war in this sequence, or at least the yearning for peace, or the desire
Attempt at
for it.
peace.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the quest for peace. Superman 4.
Yeah, and we all know what happened with Superman 4, and we never talk about it again.
No, we don't.
And really, there's a reason why Kirk is so beloved amongst Star Trek fans, and even in the Federation. It's because of things like this and how he knows where situations have to go so that peace can prevail. And in this situation, it would be destroying this bird of prey. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like that it was a brilliant way to show how each of these captains were so different and led to unfortunate circumstances, or fortunate in Kirk's scenario.
I just feel like it feels like in a lot of sci-fi shows there'll be these like single points in time, like everything else with multiverses and this and that can kind of change and adjust and the timeline can move around them. But I remember from like Doctor Who, there are certain fixed points in time. Like Yonto dying, which by the way, bring Yonto back.
God
still.
Damn it.
I know. It still makes me sad. But I feel like maybe this is a fixed point in time and this has to happen. Like that's what it feels like to me. Like these people have to die. Pike has to get put in the turbo machine. What the hell? The one, lower deck. I hope, can they please do an episode when he gets in that machine where he goes to the like fancy planet and that cruise director guy who's terrible at it is also there, like, and also the salamander guy. Like, I'm here for all of that. Anyway,
so
like the farm. Like the
farm?
farm in Lower Deck? That's
In
what
Lower
you're talking
Decks?
about? Oh my god!
That's a deep cut. I like
What
it.
are you talking about?
Oh my
Where they
God.
bring the dog. The dog goes to the farm. Okay, oh my god.
dog's the dog.
No, Aaron's
Good
right. There
point.
is a guy in a beep boop chair in that episode.
Too. And they're
With
wearing
Anthony.
white shirts and they've got
Yeah,
drinks.
Anthony.
Anthony, the lizard baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lizard babies.
Come on, Julian.
Lizard babies.
Thank you.
Lizard babies.
He said.
Very good, very good. But yeah, I think it's a fixed point in time, and I kind of like that because I think that a lot of Star Trek, like I love seeing them like wiggle around things and make it work, but sometimes you just got to put your foot down and be like, there's nothing you can do. It's a terrible situation. There's no good answer. Like now he knows that everything has to stay not the same, but this has to happen, which is not only what a selfless guy, right? It's awful for him. He knows everything's like in the future, his life sucks, but it's also awful because these children die. Like they're young, not children. They will be young adults, but he's more focused on their futures than his own, which I think is a nice, like, unsort of recognized storyline through this is he's concerned about them. Like, obviously he's worried about his own future, but that seems to be the main focus, and I love that.
So yeah, I love this whole thing with the pincer move and that. Yeah, it didn't work in both times in that. But imagine Pike had been out there alone without the Farragut and
Oh
Kirk.
man.
Yeah.
I don't
Completely
even know if he would have he wouldn't have shadowed him. Would he have?
I don't think he would have. No.
No.
Because like the whole thing is like, Kirk actually listens to Spock, and the advice of others and that, but Pike was still reaching out for that possibility of peace and that. And I was trying to like coordinate like, the 2-hour window that they gave to the Romulans with like, what happened in Balanced Terror and that. And Kirk had the Enterprise sit motionless for 9 hours with no power, and that was the only little peace agreement he made, and that was waiting for the enemy to like, make a sound or anything in that before he just came in blasting. But yeah, and that if like Pike had just been there alone with the Enterprise and that, like, completely different outcome in that. The Enterprise would have been the one that the Romulan warship would have fucked up and just blown out of the sky. It's there's so many. The fact that they went and decided to tell a different tale on this this one episode was just a masterstroke of writing. And a great way to close out this season. I still can't get over it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Listen, I knew the thing was not gonna work, and I was still surprised it didn't work. Like when they're like, they didn't come out of the, because like in Balance of Terror, you know they're doing it because you're with the Romulans at that moment, and it's like, you know, go behind them, like don't get out. So you know it's happening, and you're still like, oh my god, what is going to happen? But in A Quality of Mercy, I was not entirely sure that they were gonna do the same thing, right? I was like, maybe they're gonna come out, I don't know. Then I did forget what I was like watching, and I was like just into the episode, and when they don't come out in the other, I was like I was like legit surprised and shocked even if I knew that what was going to happen. So no, it was great, and I think it's a good. I don't understand what's a pincer move, to be honest. I've watched Balance of Terror 15 times. I have no idea what they're doing with like the reflection of the ship. I don't know. Like in Quality of Mercy, same. I'm like, sure, like okay. I'm just with you
it's
guys.
a military
whatever.
tactic, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not. None of us are trying to.
For me,
do
it's
battle.
techno. Yeah, it's like techno babble. You know, it's like things that don't really exist anyway. I'm not
Isolinear
invested in like
chips.
I'm not
Yeah.
invested in trying to understand what they're doing. Especially because in Star Trek they always forget that you can go up, down. You can go any way in space. They're always like going like they're on
Pike
the road.
doesn't forget
so,
that in Memento Mori. Just
That's fair.
True.
pointing that out.
True, and
Kirk does it in
Discovery
here.
does it too, because like when the shuttles arrive, usually you have to turn with the shuttle to enter the ship.
Mhm.
So I like this. Anyway, side note. Where was I doing with that? I don't know. I like it. I was into it. I was like, I was involved in it. I even if I don't understand what they were doing. So good, because I don't like submarine movie. They lose me.
You
too
do
much.
now. Maybe not.
No,
Maybe
if there were 50
TOS
minutes and in
episode
space,
lost me a couple of times. Like it got a little like one note for me.
if there were 50 minutes and in space, I would like them.
That's Battlestar Galactica.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Fucking
true.
love
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica.
Not even Hunt for October. You've seen Hunt for
Nah,
October.
yeah, I've seen it, but like, listen, like army movies, like especially if they're like real or like real historical thing, I'm not invested in it. I'm gonna go read the Wikipedia while watching the movie, and then I'm gonna forget I'm watching
Yeah.
the movie. You know,
Crimson Tide,
yeah.
man. Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
Um,
But one thing, damn it, I forgot again. Oh no, I know. I was missing the Spock fucking up and pressing the button and everything clearing.
Silver Metal Tavern goes, wait, are we talking about episode 10 again? Are we going to have Strange New Worlds withdrawals?
Yes.
Yes, we are
Yeah.
we're so
Yeah.
if you're coming in late, we're deep diving the similarities and differences between Balance of Terror and A Quality of Mercy. So
And
Because
some other stuff too.
Yeah.
And some other
that
stuff,
moment where everybody is quiet and Spock just like stands up and like press a random button and everything goes up. I live for that moment in Star Trek. Like, it's so dumb, but it's so possible.
yeah.
You know,
I
it's
love
like,
the TOS ones
everybody,
whenever they get hit, they're like,
everybody's quiet and somebody's phones just rings. That thing. What is she doing?
She's doing hers when they
that's
get
how they
when
all
they get
like
shot.
fall. They're all like,
They did.
holy shit.
Yep.
Like, it's so funny.
Also, sorry, in Balance, I love that moment with Mark Leonard in Balance of Terror, and that when the sub commander lets him know, sir, and that Mark Leonard just turns his head up with that look, and he's like, we have them.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So good.
Yeah, all that because Spock has big hands, I suppose. Like, what the hell?
In another timeline, I could have called you friend. Same dialogue, same lines, two very different outcomes as mentioned previously, but both played absolutely beautiful. Mark Leonard, Matthew was just like so freaking fantastic as well. Just a great defining moment in both of these episodes. And in both realities, the bird of prey is destroyed. One to destroy war, to avoid war, and one is a declaration of war. How did these final moments work?
Amazing. When Mark Leonard dies and says these words, there's this air of dignity, of honor when he dies, and it's just like, oh man, this person would have been amazing to know. But when Matthew dies in in A Quality of Mercy, there's something very tragic and sad when they're just like blown to pieces by their own armada, and you know that this person was trying to not live this life of constant war, and he just wanted peace. And for a Romulan to think that too is crazy. On top of that, but seeing it was incredible, and you know that the war that would have followed would have been just devastating. Like that's how it felt, just from that one moment of him dying and him saying these words and him having this show of superiority by that armada, by the what's the name of that?
The Praetor.
Praetor. My God, like it made her even more terrifying. Like she had a great presence already, but for her to make him go out there, do these, sacrifice himself, was just, my God. Like I love how these played off against each other. They're both these when we talk about moments that we'll remember in Star Trek, this is one of those things. Like it's phenomenally done.
She was really nimble in the way that she pivoted. Well, no, really, because she, at first she had the upper hand and then they did, but she was able to continually sort of turn the narrative and make it work for whatever was happening worked for her. And there was never a question in my mind as a viewer of who was in charge. Like she was very confident. And so I thought she was great. I was surprised by the different ending in TOS because I thought that the ending in Strange New Worlds, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, like based on what I know. But I was surprised by how different it ended because I assumed, just based on watching the Strange New Worlds, that the one with Kirk would be, I guess, like better. Is that the right word? But it ended up being
it's a better outcome
crazy.
because there's no war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I thought the Kirk version would be like chill. So
Yeah.
It kind of marks the contrast of these two episodes because when he says those words to Kirk in the original, it's they're speaking as two captains of their ships and that as two warriors, and one has bested the other, and they connected on that level. When he says, I could have called you friend, it's like, you're you bested me on the battlefield and that, and it's like nobody has done that at this point. When he says the same thing to Pike, and that he's reaching out to this guy who holds these kind of same ideals and frustrations that he had in that regarding like the states that their governments live in, it's like at war, tension. It's like the Romulan government wants a war, and the Federation obviously does not, but will obviously plunge themselves into it if it comes to that. It's interesting because they're this supposed friendship in another life, and that it comes from two very different circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not Erin texting me for my excuse. It's Matthew MacFadzean telling me we're doing a good show.
Oh,
Thank you,
He's listening
Matthew.
right now. So hello.
Hey, Matthew.
Thank you so much. That's so kind.
hi Matthew, I didn't get to meet you, but you're great.
I was like, you want to come surprise on the Zoom? It's like, oh, it's too late.
Awesome. Beam him in.
I mean, we could. I wouldn't say no.
Just say now.
What was I saying? Yeah, I agree with Hawk. Sorry, I'm trying to come back to what I was doing.
Listen to me.
The Romulan Commander in The Balance of Terror has such he gets the death that he wants, kind. I mean, not that he was honorable to his people. It's a great, and it's so, again, creature of duty, this so honorable, kind of, in the Quality of Mercy, you feel for him so much.
Yes.
So much. It touches you like this. We could have been friends has a totally different meaning in that episode, because he's sacrificed on the altar of war by his own people.
Yeah.
And that's such, literally, they shoot him in the back. They actually shoot him in the back.
Yep.
And there's such a pain because this whole crew is dying because Pike took the wrong decision, kind of. They're dying honorable death. And that's what we're saying too. You know, the Romulans, their whole family are going to pass, right? Like, they're going to go after everybody.
Yep, that's the Romulan way. Tal Shiar is going to make all those people disappear. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so much more poignant in Equality of Me. It's so much unfair. And somehow the same people die, though. But the meaning of their death is so different. Because, as you were saying, Erin, it's a point in time that cannot change. In one, their death avoid war, so the death of millions. And here, the death are the start of a war and death of millions. So it's actually, I didn't think about this until now. It's really good.
Right here.
And it's really good. And that same line is like absolutely different here.
Yeah. And like you were saying though, like it's, even though, you know, he's saying I've accepted my fate and, you know, this is just what we do. It's not like the Praetor's even giving them the courtesy of like letting them self-destruct. You're literally getting shot in the back, like you said, Giraffe. Yeah. And that's a statement, like that's like a fuck you. And it's not really an honorable death, which is why, like you said, you do end up feeling for Matthew's Romulan commander, whereas Mark Leonard's, he's just been bested. You know, like,
but you still feel for him.
No,
like,
you do, no doubt, no doubt.
But he has an honorable death in that.
It is, yes. Yeah.
Well, you know, they're going to be regarded as heroes.
Exactly.
And somehow, like, everybody wins in Balance of Terror, even if they die. And they're old men, too, in Balance of Terror. Like, they're like, he's kind of done with war. The young dude wants an honorable. He wants to die in the war, right? Yeah. When here, there's actually this, I'm saying actually a lot. It's I'm in the mood today. I'm like,
actually, you've been in California too long.
Oh, so long. I'm moving to Canada, don't you know?
We're moving together.
He wants to end this war. He doesn't want this war to happen in Equality of Mercy, and he's like. Is feeling for that young guy that doesn't understand this whole generation that doesn't get this. And it's very interesting because the Romulan Empire is Walmart's interpretation of the Roman Empire.
Right.
It's true.
I get it.
I'm here for it.
You know, and like the name, the Praetor, the Centurion, the Curious, you know, there's like all these references. And it's true that Rome was a militaristic empire, absolutely. But they were hell-bent on keeping the peace too. Like they didn't want things to blow up internally, but everybody would go through the some dose of military life, all the men, which I think the Romulan Empire does that too. So all the senator, all of the praetor, they've been in the military, in my opinion. They live that life. That's why they're like continue this like perpetual circle of going at war with everybody. So yeah, it's brilliant. I need to rewatch Equality of Mercy now.
I
felt the same way actually after watching the TOS. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Speaking of, will Quality of Mercy, do you guys think stand the same test of time, the same way Balance of Terror has? Because Balance of Terror is what a top 5, maybe top 3 TOS episode. Does it stand the test of time? And do you prefer one over the other, Eric? I know.
That last question. But yes, I think this will stand the test of time. It is my favorite season 1 finale out of any of the Star Treks. It on top of that, it's a phenomenal episode. And just the acting from Pike and everyone on this, it was just like a top notch. This is top notch Star Trek right now. Will it have the same effect as Balance of Terror? Maybe. I think Balance of Terror came out in a time, like I was saying earlier, during that Red Scare, so it had a different feel. But it does have that timeless quality. Like they both feel like they would be one of those episodes that you watch again and again because they are so damn good, acting wise, action wise. The script is just phenomenal for both sides. This is definitely one I'm gonna watch again, and as we all have done, we've watched this like 20 times.
I'm getting close to double digits. Yeah,
right. So yes, it will stand this time. I don't have one more than the other.
They complement each other.
They
right?
do. You can't really have one without. You can have Balance of Terror without the Quality of Mercy, but Quality of Mercy enhances it. So that's why I enjoy both of it.
She's not paying attention. Erin, it's your turn.
I got distracted because I just bought the pants on eBay. So this cosplay is
And she's
Lord
texting me
almighty.
about it.
Oh
She's like,
my
I bought the
God.
pants.
Fired.
I
You're
know.
Fired.
Star Trek related.
I know when it's your
It's
turn.
Star Trek related.
Where's the fucking airlock?
I don't even know the question.
Do you... Oh no, she's gone.
Wait, she left.
She's gone.
I
No,
didn't
we-
actually
we-
boot her.
We called her.
I need.
You booted her?
Oh,
No.
I'm, like the Romulan Commander that got called.
I think she just did get cold though. We'll see if she comes back. While
I
we
love
wait.
it. I
Hawk.
love it.
Yeah. Balance of Terror, not just one of the top 5 like Star Trek shows of all time. I think entirely one of the top 5 in sci-fi, television of all time. But quality.
Damn,
of
Julian, you were that mad? You buffed me for the whole
I
damn pod?
didn't. I didn't touch anything.
I can't. This is
It'd
the
be
end of the
great if I
podcast.
did.
Damn.
It would be great if I did. Keep going, Hawk.
But Quality of Mercy, it tonally is so much more richer, right?
Mhm.
Because it's like it operates on like a bunch of different levels, and that it talks about fate and that, and like what happens when you change a fate, and the after effects of that, and not just that, but like the whole the thing about like with war, and it's like when it comes down to a Balance of Terror, was like really an action piece, and that but we got to see the effects of what would have happened if that had played out differently, and what it could have plunged like the Federation and the whole galaxy into at that point. So yeah, Quality of Mercy is definitely going to hold up for me like over time. It's just like it's so tightly written, it's so well acted. I can't see that it's not going to be like in the future, counted on a bunch of our lists as one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be that bitch.
Oh boy.
But I love Quality of Mercy. But you need background to understand the episode.
Yes.
You need to have watched the
I
first
needed
season.
that.
You need to have you need to know that Pike knows that he's gonna be and blah 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 and all this, and like you need to know the Klingons on like whatever the planet is with like their weird crystal. You need all this, right? To understand what the hell is going on in that episode. Balance of Terror stand by itself.
That's true.
And
true.
I can rewatch this episode anytime, anyhow, by itself, even if you don't know Trek, if you have no idea, even if you heard of Kirk Spock, you're going to be invested in that episode because you don't know who's gonna die. And I think it's even better because we know the Enterprise is not gonna get blown into bits, right? But imagine not knowing.
Oh, I wish they
And-
did
Well,
it in
they were
Quality
still
of Mercy.
establishing Trek at that point. Isn't it like
Yeah.
episode 10? I mean, like, they don't have
Absolutely.
to try to like connect all these dots, whereas A Strange New World, it's like 2022. They have got to be like, make those the diagrams.
And I like Romulans, and it's news to you, but like I like the fact that you spend
Oh
so
my
much
God.
time with them in Balance of Terror. Like you're in the head, you know what they're doing, you know why they're here, all this. You go from the like absolute surprise to like seeing them and like seeing them deliberating, and you see both the crew deliberating at the same time, and you're like that kind of you're put in a position of a observer kind of, and you don't know who's gonna survive or not, which in Quality of Mercy the Romulans are like so shrinked that I like the conversation because that gives us a lot of intel on what they're doing, but they're not 50-50 like in Balance of Terror. In Balance of Terror you spend maybe not as much, but a long time.
It's a good amount,
shit.
though. It's a good
Yeah.
amount. Yeah.
So I like this balance.
Oh,
tear?
Balancing the tear.
But I do think that if you have not watched Balance of Terror, Quality of Mercy is still a good episode. But if you have watched No Strange New World, No Track, if it's the first episode you watch, Balance of Terror is a better episode on this. They go one after the other. You need to watch Balance of Terror and then A Quality of Mercy to have the full. It's brilliant.
I will say that
thing.
this is my wife is not a Star Trek fan. This is her first Star Trek. Strange New Worlds is really her first one. Same with my daughter, as I was saying earlier. But they both really liked how this ended. So I wonder how it'll go with them going forward if they watch more Star Trek. I know my younger one will, but I don't know about my wife.
But they've watched Strange New World though.
Just Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, but so you know who Pike is, why he's here, what he's doing, you know, why like all this.
You could, I think, what Draft's saying, like you couldn't go into the finale, even though it's an episodic show, and maybe fully know everything that's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My wife,
There's a lot of reference of stuff that like the Maroons, all this. Like, I mean,
right?
Yeah, my wife didn't understand the references. Like she caught sings, but I think she just like seeing me excited about it. I don't know.
So Aaron, we were asking if Quality of Mercy will stand the test of time the same way that Balance of Terror is like a top 3, top 5 episode of Star Trek has, and do you prefer one over the other?
I mean, I prefer the Strange New Worlds over the original just because I've seen it, you know, more recently. Very well. I mean, technically, I've seen them both pretty recently, but because I didn't have the background of it, it's kind of interesting because you guys are comparing Strange New Worlds to TOS, and I'm comparing TOS to Strange New Worlds, which doesn't sound different, but it is. And so for me, I think we're in the first season, so we need to see what's gonna happen. But I do think that this is probably one of the most memorable episodes of season 1. And it also pays off the story arc we've seen, you know, that started in Discovery, and that's been his overarching journey the whole time, right? Like he got on the ship knowing that this was a part of his life that he's gonna have to confront. And it keeps coming up, but now it's really come up, right? Like his other ass self has come up to be like, let's deal with this right now. So I'm curious if it's going to be a situation where he's not put it to rest, right? Because it's still coming, but I feel like he's put
it to rest as in like he's going to go through with it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's emotionally not ready for it, but he's committed to what he's going to do, which is kind of weird because it's like not nothing, but he's not going to try to stop it, which is crazy. I think
he was always ready to go through it. He wanted to save the cadets most of everything.
Right. But he was obviously that was really troubling for him, and I'm assuming it still will be because young people are going to die. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I think it is iconic, and I'll be interested to see where we go next season because it seems like he's come to a certain amount of like closure with it, even though it's not closed. I think it's a high point for Pike, and it's a strong point in the story, right? Like this has become a central thing for him. Well, it's not become; it's always been his thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna go down as probably like one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever. Definitely the best season 1 finale. It does definitely, I think, stand the test of time. But I do agree with Draft too. You need Balance of Terror with this episode. That's why I don't prefer one over the other. They complement each other in a very Draft. Like you kept on saying it tonight. Like it's really beautiful. Like it's really gorgeous, and it's just it just works how well they mesh with each other.
It's like poetry.
It is
Rhymes.
like poetry. Nice.
Julian, do you feel like we need to do a pod that is ranking all of the season 1 finales now?
Well, we have some episodes to fill in before Lower Decks, so yes.
With all the ideas you have, there's like, I don't know, 16 episodes. We're going to be doing like bonus episode until December. Like, what is this? We just have a few weeks.
4? 2.
More
Anyway.
ideas are better than less.
That's true. Let's get into the subspace to poll and mailbag.
Aye, sir.
See, my fucking thing went back.
I liked it. It worked still. She
it
said
doesn't.
yes.
No, let me do it again because I don't want to put it in post.
Shipwide cadet everywhere.
Aye, sir.
My go.
Who wants to do the poll? The to poll.
I'll do the poll.
Okay.
I'll do the poll. To poll. I'll do them. We asked Trek Twitter which episode did Balance of Terror
did Balance of Terror
better?
Better.
Yep. The classic or the update. And this is what they said. 38% said Balance of Terror. And 62% said A Quality of Mercy. Ooh.
I was shocked by the results
I'm very
of this
surprised
poll,
about that.
If we're being completely honest.
The TOS fans are too old to be on Twitter.
Yeah.
I didn't vote. I didn't vote, but
That's-
can you add one for Balance of Terror?
Oh my god.
It's like, it's a good thing. That means a lot of the audience watching the show is probably new to TOS like me.
Agreed.
And that's good because it's showing that Star Trek has a future. Not to say that all of us who are in our a little older years aren't, important, but that younger audience is going to keep it going.
That's the youngest one in the room.
I'm not the youngest one.
You're absolutely the
you
youngest one.
absolutely
What
are
are
the
you
youngest
talking about?
And I are like the same age. But when
No,
what month?
I mean, sure, okay, yeah, we're the same age. We're the same age. I'm the youngest one too.
Ben, what?
No, Julian and I are the same year. But what month are you, Julian?
March.
Fuck.
Yeah.
86?
86. You're the youngest one in the room.
I
You're the
forgot
youngest
because
one.
Brittany's not here anymore. She was like 25.
She used to be.
So
You have
easy.
that role now.
I'm okay with that. I'm young and beautiful.
We have one mailbag. It's from Haven. I'll read it because I didn't put it in the outline. I'm writing this while watching Balance of Terror, and I could see already just 10 minutes in how close it simulated the episode, how they simulated the episode for Strange New Worlds. This episode is one that I'm glad I'm watching brand new. It gives me an open point of view even as I watch Strange New Worlds. Last week, a total of 5 times. Well done.
Wow.
I could truly see that Strange New Worlds was truly written and directed by people who have loved Trek. This episode, according to NYRLite, is in his top 3 episodes. I've seen a limited amount of TOS, 11 episodes total to date, but this would easily be in my top 3 I've seen as well. Although it's not as good as Strange New Worlds for being a 55-year-old episode, it is absolutely great. And that does it. That's a wrap, folks. With that, I will say we are off next week. We are off for the first time in 30 weeks now.
Yep.
So we will...
Pirate Radio in Giraffe's living room.
Giraffe,
Let's
we
go.
might
Giraffe,
do
I'll
a
be
pirate
there.
radio. We
We
might
should do
a
our
pirate
QVC.
radio. Oh boy. Anyway, folks, if we don't do a pirate radio, we will see you in 2 weeks. We're going to be starting a best of courtroom dramas series. I think it's going to be a 2-part series. It's going to be a lot of fun. I believe Hawk's idea. So, and I think Giraffe is trying to lock down a guest for that. We're not going to announce that quite yet.
I totally forgot, but yes, she will.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Cool. So, courtroom dramas in a couple of weeks. That's going to do it for this one, folks. So, for Hawk, for Giraffe, for Eric, for Aaron, I am Julian. I say, Jolan True, live long and prosper. Good night.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.